Hi, it's Kevin Lebates here, and I'm going to bite the bullet and make a video about intrinsic value. I think the last time I made one of these was about 5 years ago, so it's been a while. And over that time, I have spent probably far too much time thinking about the term intrinsic value. And what I want to do is start off by observing the fact that intrinsic value has two different perspectives from which you can interpret it. You can look at it in an economic sense, or you can look at it in a philosophical sense. But what you should not do is conflate the two, or even worse, in your dialogue, shift from one to the other, because that's duplicitous. And yet that is something that I'm seeing in a lot of the posts and articles that have as their central tenet that Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. The underlying implication is that therefore Bitcoin is valueless, and that is patently wrong, but never addressed by the people who come up with these arguments. Now, if you go and look at the economic sense of intrinsic value, the idea there is very simple. Rather than just looking at the market price of something, you try to come up with a model that allows you to have some kind of prediction as to what the market value will be at some point in the future. And the idea there is that you have more information than people who are just tracking price fluctuations, and can therefore come up with some kind of prediction that says what the market price should be if everybody knew all the information, and therefore make more informed investment decisions. And there are various models and formulas out there that you can use to calculate this, in quotes, intrinsic value, and therefore hopefully be a step ahead of the market. And this works very well for things like options, because options are deterministic. You can address the price of an option, you can work out exactly how much it is worth, and there the models are very good. It starts getting a bit more difficult if you're trying to work out the intrinsic value formula for, well, not the intrinsic value formula, but a intrinsic value formula for other things such as stocks or property or commodities. And this is where the economics textbooks fall down, because they shift in the sentences that I see from absolute statements to relativist statements. For example, I saw one in which the intrinsic value of property was addressed. And they said that the intrinsic value of a property is the absolute value of the property derived from its location, its construction quality, and potential future revenue incomes or price increases in the property. Well, you've gone there from an absolute value to something that is a potential, i.e. it's an estimate, it's a prediction, it's not a hard fact. And you see this scattered throughout the texts on intrinsic value in economics. 1 minute they're talking about it being the true value, as though somehow we are able to tap into the absolute nature of the universe and know exactly how it works and how the minds of the market work. And then they shift to it being a risk estimate. So, as I said before, I find that duplicitous. Now, coming back to Bitcoin, how can we calculate the intrinsic value of Bitcoin? How can we come up with a formula to predict what its worth should be rather than what its market price currently is? And there are ways to do this. You can say, I think that at some point in the future, based on these assumptions and based on these observations, that the price in the marketplace will increase, for example, because you are predicting that there will be strategic national reserves of Bitcoin and there currently are not, or because you think that managers of portfolios will decide to diversify into Bitcoin too. Now, this is all investment and speculation, but they're reasonable assumptions to make in a model to try to predict what the price will be in the future. What economic intrinsic value does not give you is some kind of philosophical absolute sense of what Bitcoin's price will be. And again, here is another thing that the economists do. They switch between price, value, and worth randomly from one part of a sentence to another, which again is also duplicitous. And again, I don't know whether they're doing it on purpose, if they're actually aware of that they are doing this, or whether it's just that they're clueless. Anyway, looking again at the philosophical side of things, well, human beings have been having debates about objectivity and truth and value since the ancient Greeks, probably since before them. It's a key thing that, for example, Plato addresses. And there we're talking about intrinsic value in terms of, are there things that have value beyond the concept of man? Are there things in the universe that are absolute, that we can understand, and that we can deduce from, that we can tap into in a way? And the fact is, this debate is still raging, and generally the opinion has shifted towards us as human beings having to take a fallibilist and relativist approach to the universe, that we cannot know what the truth of the universe is. We just get shadows on the wall of a cave kind of thing. And in fact, we don't even know if we're in a cave or if there is really anything out there. So when you look at it philosophically, we don't come up with any clear answers, and therefore it's left to the individual to make up their mind in their own heart as to what they believe. And back to Bitcoin, well, what I believe is it is definitely not going to be the best possible alternative to money or to value storage that there can be. Its significance and meaning will shift in society over time as our perceptions change, but at the moment, as far as I can tell, the model that it proposes, the idea of decentralizing wealth storage systems, value transmission systems, and money, might well be a good idea, looking at the way that financial systems and money and wealth storage currently work, which are not in the favor of the majority of people on the planet. But as I said, that's just a personal opinion. I have things that back it up, but a lot of those are emotional, and a lot of those are based on a kind of wanting to have a collective view for society rather than personally enriching myself as a member in the elite part of society that gets to participate and actively influence the way things such as banking actually work. But that's a whole nother kettle of fish, probably not worth getting into in this video, which has already gone on for far too long. But to conclude, it's disappointing to see such poor argumentation on the part of the people who are trying to say that Bitcoin has no value and therefore something should be done about it, and that those of us who are interested in it are fools. I still hold with the opinion that people who use such flawed logic in their arguments, and who actually rely on rhetorical devices to trick people into making it seem that their arguments are better than they really are, well, I certainly cannot side with those. That's it for today. Hope you found it interesting. I have to stop now because my fingers are absolutely freezing in this minus 10-degree weather. But I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye for now.